All right, welcome into the Knoll Road Steelers fans. We have big Steelers injury news ahead of Steelers-Browns, key matchups, Watt versus Garrett and all that, and what all Steelers fans must know about how this is likely to go between those two. We have reasons to believe this game could be easy, could be pretty dang tough. What do you think? Put your thoughts in the comments down below. And speaking of comments, we'll address a very spicy comment from our last show. Here we go.
To the corner of the end zone. Oh, it's for a touchdown!
All right, welcome in. Excited about week 6. Excited to get coming off this bye. And hopefully Mike Tomlin's post-bye record continues. You have a great opportunity. But this game is huge, Newbear. Okay, Gavin Dawson along with Newbear Luzniewski. You win, you go to 4-1. History says 79% playoff shot. You lose, it goes to 50-50. How the heck you feeling here as we get ready for this one?
Can I tell you what's not flip a coin? Like, make the switch to stainless. I had coffee earlier today, and there's still ice in here. So my wife's got me on this kick where it's Red Bull, it's coffee, it's all the caffeine that I like. And she's right. And I have to say that on the air because she won, and I have to do those things. And when you talk about flipping a coin and saying, okay, one way or the other, you know how you not do that? You watch the Ravens go to 1-5 and you go to 5-1.
Whew. Yes, that would be amazing. Lamar Jackson out against the Rams. That would be a hell of a shock if the Ravens can figure out a way to get off the snide this week against the Rams. So, yeah, that would be pretty dang amazing. And I don't think even Vegas could continue to slight you at that point. Speaking of the stainless, just wait till your kids get old enough that they know what the viral water bottle is, and they're asking you for a new $40 or $50 Stanley or whatever every 3 weeks.
I have been drinking the microplastics out of my old Kentucky, Alabama, my SEC school water bottles from when I used to work at GNC, and my wife made the switch. She just didn't tell me. That's where we're at in our relationship.
Very nice. Well, she's doing great work there, and salute to Mrs. Luzniewski for making you so available here so we can break these games down. We do have the injury news first up here on the Knoll Road. Hit the like if you could. That helps us get distribution. And if you could subscribe, I lost my guy. Where is he? There he is. If you could subscribe as well, that would be like the best possible.
I thought you punted me because you knew I was going to start talking about dinosaurs and breaking down Ankylosaurus versus Allosaurus. Yeah, you know where the stainless is going to take you. But yeah, sub. And hey, for the record, my old man was like following us, or he thought he was, and he was watching us on YouTube every time we put up a show. He didn't know he had to hit the D-pad and go over there and hit the little button. So it's different than when you're on your phone. If you're watching the show, I mean, we're over 13,000 watch hours, the click-through rates, the watch time. Thank you guys so much. Like, we want to make more shows, and in order to do that, we need you to hit more subscribe buttons.
Subscribe, and maybe even the bell so you never miss when we upload or go live. It'll send you alert right to your phone. Jalen Ramsey's going to play. And for the first time this year, Newbear, let's celebrate this. The Steelers are going to have their actual starting defense in place, my man.
It took every ounce of self-control I had not to interrupt you. People comment, they're like, oh, we like listening to you because you guys don't. And I think the parlance is step on each other. And I often apologize to you for interrupting you and stepping on you when you get me fired up. Why? I cannot believe, dude, he faked a hamstring injury and he hurt his hamstring. If you can't beat the Cleveland Browns without him, the Cincinnati Bengals without him, I guess I understand that one more because they have the two-headed monster and Gesicki, and you want to play levels. But dude, like if it was a real hamstring pull, and then he goes and tweaks it again, and we're going week to week. They held JPG out through the bye because they want to make sure he was right. We're still worried about him. I can't have this conversation about Jalen Ramsey. Sit him down, deal with the fallout, and just not have this linger.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because one thing is clear. I don't know who got upset with him for faking that hammy on his way to the gritty. Is that karma? Is that football gods? Is that an unknown entity that I'm not considering? I don't know. palms up. But I do know you're tempting fate here with this one, and I do know hamstrings are the biggest son of a bitch as far as nagging injuries in, sports like football, soccer, basketball. You think you're good, and you have like a 900% greater chance of re-aggravating it that season, that calendar year, no matter what sport you're in. Once you've tweaked a hammy, I think they should be extra careful. And I think this Browns wide receiver core presents that opportunity. Maybe they're worried about the tight ends. I could imagine, maybe they're squinting and hoping. Maybe the hammy just wasn't that bad to begin with, and 2 weeks was enough. But this does make me nervous.
Yeah, my big thing is dogs. You look at the plays of the game, forget everything else. When it's nut cutting time, he lights up Garrett Wilson. When it's nut cutting time, like, you can walk me off a Yankee route if at the end of the day we trust this guy when the game's on the line. And if you're telling me that he can't even celebrate, that Father Time is that undefeated, man, do whatever it takes to get him all the way right so that once it's done, we're done talking about it.
It is pretty cool. Like, if he goes through this game clean and you have all these guys out there, I can't wait to see what they do against a rookie quarterback and a compromised receiver core. Just not very good. But yeah, I'm not taking anything for granted. This is a pretty healthy point spread. They're at home. I like the Steelers, and I don't know about the 5.5 because of how good the Cleveland defense is. It's a divisional game. That's just, it's probably too much for me to want to lay. But up next here on the Knoll Road, we got to talk about Watt and Garrett. I know you've been chomping at the bit since maybe before they even got back off that plane from Dublin. You've been wanting to talk Watt and Garrett. They do rank first and second in sacks since both entered the league. No other player has more than 85 during that span, and they're at 110 and 106. Just clearly the two best at their position in the game, and it's been cool to get them to get to see them, basically go head to head 2 times a year.
So my thing isn't just shitting on Myles Garrett. My thing isn't just like one guy's great and one guy sucks. My thing is that, one guy's better than the other guy. One guy's done more than the other guy. One guy got an award handed to him as a career achievement thing because his team finally didn't suck ass. And the other guy is like really good all the time, and his team wins just enough for it to be annoying. I can't stand the argument because, quite frankly, the last time we spoke, I said he should figure out how to walk his ass down to Cincinnati, and maybe Joe Burrow can be the chaperone and they could row a boat to where the three rivers connect, and he can give him his award back. It boggles my mind that you can look at the numbers and go, oh, TJ sucks, and just throw him overboard, if you will. And then when you go look back over time and you add it all up, there is no doubt what the result is. So it's not a hater thing. Like, Myles Garrett's really good. Myles Garrett's so good, in fact, that if we're going to talk about Broderick Jones at all, if we're going to talk about Mount Washington at all, where I'm looking forward to it the most is that they get into his ribs, and whoever is toting the rock gets going around end, and we can play action over his ass.
I like the sound of that. I definitely wouldn't want to go on my own Steelers podcast and defend a Cleveland Brown or Myles Garrett in any way. But I'd love to see what the comments say down below. I think it's too close to call. I don't know who's better. I think Myles Garrett is consistently a higher pressure rate player. TJ Watt consistently gives you more strip sacks, more forced fumbles, more interceptions. I think he makes more splash plays than Myles Garrett. But and for that reason, I would prefer to have TJ Watt. But I think a lot of this stuff got personal in a way against Myles Garrett that I understand. I think I would feel personally about it as well if I had been that invested from birth or for a sustained period of time and, had experienced this rivalry from a true Yinzer perspective. But I'm an outsider. I think that, there's some downside of that, but on the other side of it makes me more objective. And
here's a couple of quick points, and then we can move on as quickly as you want to. The regular season head-to-head is like 8-3-1 versus 3-8-1, but the postseason head-to-head is 1-0. And that's because of the Baker Mayfield game. And when you look at that and you go, oh, okay, they played one time and one guy won and one guy didn't. Do you know the one thing Myles Garrett's never done in his career is pick a pass off? Like when you break this thing down, there are levels to the game. And when you talk about Myles Garrett winning a award in a year when TJ like doubles him up in tackles or outproduces him and leads the league in this, and like when I joke about it being a career achievement award, Myles Garrett has had a great career. He deserves to win things. He will be a Hall of Famer. On the way there, that doesn't mean that you get given things at the expense of people who are better than you.
I'll let you hold the final point on that. I think I think you make great points. I do think that Myles Garrett's been on a vastly inferior team with lesser coaching. And if I had a choice to take either one out of college, I'd be happy. But ultimately, I would take TJ.
For sure.
Okay,
and when Myles Garrett was coming out, do you remember that tape? You're down there in Texas.
Yeah.
You remember?
Yeah, we've been hearing about him since high school. Yeah.
And for him to deliver on that, especially as bad as the offense, the quarterback carousel, all the things. When I'm just so I don't get dogged in the comments, like I'm not making things up. The year that he won DPOY, he had 14 sacks. He had 42 combined tackles, 33 solo, 4 forced fumbles, right? And that is, just so we're clear, 2023. In 2023, TJ Watt had 48 solos, 68 combined, 19 sacks. Like when you finish runner up and you equal or better your contemporary in everything else, this is the Sammy Sosa hitting home runs and winning MVP on a dog shit team. When the dog shit team finally isn't dog shit anymore, we just give them all the things. Here's Kevin Stefanski. Here's a coach of the year. Myles Garrett. Here's DPOY. Like I can't stand it. And yes, it is exacerbated not just by, raising my kids blocks away from Bill Cowher's house and living on TV. We're almost in the picture depending on how far the drone goes. But it's like when you take a step back and you look at it in totality and you go, how did this thing happen? Baker Mayfield doing what he's doing now after they shit on him, the Cleveland Browns just continuing to do that to people who actually help them try to get where they're going to go when they go then give, unlimited money to Bill Cosby's grandson. Like, I just can't give them the benefit of the doubt when the counting stats say otherwise.
I love it. Newbear, Lesniewski, Gavin Dawson here. Now, I don't want to make it any worse for you, but he did have this quote saying he gets the most hate in Pittsburgh and it fuels him. He also, Myles Garrett, put up an Instagram post saying it's more than a game. It's a rivalry with Renegade playing. So I don't know if that's respect or trolling, but I know Steelers fans, are fired up and Myles Garrett apparently is fueled by that. And a lot of the great players, say that. Now, I do hate to say this as well, Newbear, but if I'm picking who's going to have the better game as we start to get into the matchups, if Watt is going to do it, I think he's going to need an interception. I think he's going to need a forced fumble on a running back. Jack Conklin has been one of the better pass protecting right tackles in this league for a while. I think this is a day where Myles Garrett has the advantage as far as who he's going up against compared to who TJ Watt's going to go up against, especially because they haven't moved Watt and they will move Myles Garrett. So if one of your tackles is having a bad day, he's going to hunt that matchup. And I don't know how much help Austin and Tomlin can find for TJ Watt when it comes to giving him a chance to produce. But I do feel like on the other side, Herbig and Highsmith against KT Levison should absolutely eat. I wouldn't be surprised if both those dudes have multiple sacks. TJ Watt will probably figure out a way to impact the game, but he was pretty much shut out by Conklin in last year's games.
So the Spencer Anderson and Darnell Washington thing is going to be the singular most fascinating part of Sunday for me, because I just have horror film nightmares of putting a tight end or two tight ends or a tackle and a tight end in motion, putting an H-back and a tight end in motion, putting anything that moves the strength of the formation to Myles Garrett, and then Myles Garrett just being like, cool, bro, I'm going to go to the other side. Like the defense being able to just do whatever it wants at any time versus the offense having to declare that chess match is because, dude, nobody who plays Pittsburgh forgets about TJ Watt.
No,
they literally build game plans and to the point where a few weeks ago we were showing Seattle where they had dudes not blocking dudes they were supposed to because they were so concerned with TJ Watt. They're tripping over each other to get in his way. That is not the same case, and that is the thing when you talk about respect and you talk about the way the game is played and you show graphs for weeks on end, for months on end, for seasons on end, where teams that play the Steelers run away. That's all you have to, you don't even have to speak. You just show the graphic. There's nothing else to say. And then people will say, well, Myles Garrett moves. And then you go, well, TJ Watt doesn't. So what conversation are we even having? So the thing about Myles is that he does move. And the problem that the Steelers ran into, Snow Angels, Jameis Winston last year, was if you get to a place where you let him be one-on-one, he will beat your ass.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to get after you. So I think how you started that, it's a great week for 12. It's great for Washington. It's great for Jumbo. And I think you got to look at, 12 the vast majority of the time. So there is not a true weak side that he can go to and try to exploit. Well, it'll be really interesting because, I have taken some shots at Artie, and I think they're well-deserved shots. But one of the things he does well, I think, is use extra guys to protect and to be physical. Here's Broderick Jones on this matchup, Newbear. What do you think about what Broderick says is key going into week 6?
Coming in with the right mindset. Well, I feel like that's 90% of the battle. Just not getting in your own head before it's time and just going out there and playing your game.
So he wants to be in the right mindset, says, not getting in your own head going against great players, because I think you can build it up and psych yourself out. And the next thing you know, you're trying to remember what you tried to remind yourself of 5 hours before the game. Try to keep this in mind. Just get out there, treat it like another player, and hope your feet and hands have their best game of the year.
So the last part of that is the hardest part because his feet are good enough. Every part of this young man is good enough. His hands are late. His hands are inconsistent. His hands are the one thing keeping him from being what we drafted him to be. If he gets his hands on Myles Garrett and just dances, at the very least, he's making him run the hump. At the very least, he's caving him down inside. Broderick Jones's hands are going to be the second most interesting thing to watch after how they dictate, or at least try to attempt to make a concerted effort, dictate personnel to figure out who the dancing bear is going to have to be.
All righty. Speaking of these Cleveland Browns and how tough this game might be, about 12 hours ago, one of our favorite commenters and I believe subscriber to the channel at the Facts Mob was active in our comments, and he thinks we're glazing the Browns too hard. He says Judy's been terrible. Bond might be the worst route runner in the league. I don't know. George Pickens might have something to say about that, but he makes up for it. This team hasn't scored over 17 in 11 straight games and hasn't won in Pittsburgh since 2003. Cleveland literally has the worst offense in the entire league. They're over there talking about 2026 and we're shaking in our boots or something. Steelers defense doesn't care about yards. What does the red zone defense do? Cleveland's red zone defense is horrible. It might be the worst. It's one of the worst. But anyway, he thinks we're glazing the Cleveland Browns. The thing about the Browns that has to really, I think, at least get your respect is this defense isn't just Myles Garrett. This defense is freaking amazing. Malik Collins has had an up and down career. He battled foot injuries early with the Cowboys, and then he made a little tour. He is dominating for Cleveland. Like, they got him in the right role with the right surroundings. And Bush and Schlesinger, one of the best linebacker combinations in the game. One of the best safety combinations in the AFC. Like, there is so much going on with this Cleveland defense. Dylan Gabriel is a quarterback with a lot of experience, and Quinshon Judkins can run the game. They could play ground control, clock control, great defense and win this game 13-10 because of how bad we've seen the Steelers offense be too many points this season.
I mean, you know how big of a Nick Chubb fan, I mean, stan really, that I am. And even with the mixed in Woody Marks, all the stuff that's going down in Houston, if I told you that Nick Chubb had 20 carries for 59 yards, less than 3 yards a carry, if I told you that there was no wide receiver outside of Jerry Jeudy who caught more than 3 balls, if I told you like that Russ Wilson last year was 21 of 28 for 270, and Jalen Warren was over 4 yards a carry, and Najee got stuffed, but Warren popped off a little bit, and here comes Justin Fields averaging 9 yards a carry on some, sub quarterback package. And dude, like if I just went through the P's and Q's of last year's game and I said the 8-2 Pittsburgh Steelers walked into the 2-8 Cleveland Browns, and here's the spreadsheet. How does this game go? Bro, they just did it in November of last year. It was less than a year ago that they were making, Jameis Winston was making snow angels with Ryan Fitzpatrick and everyone else taking their shirts off and being goofy as bleep. Like, I will all day want to walk into any given week and talk about how you should just run roughshod. They don't belong on I just said a pot or two ago, I don't think Dylan Gabriel's an NFL quarterback. I don't even think he's a clipboard holder for the next decade. He couldn't hold Chase Daniel's jock in that game, and now we're going to get him in this one? But it's not that simple when you have Quinshawn Judkins. It's not that simple when what just happened on November 21st in the snow happened. Like, I have scar tissue. I will not explain myself further.
Well, he says Stefanski's terrible. You guys are hyping up the Browns than any Browns media I've heard all year. This is hilarious. Is this a Browns show? They're over there saying we suck. You guys are over here glazing these bums better than their own media does. Wow, in all caps. He might be trolling us a little bit. And I think from a Browns perspective, you would absolutely be roasting this team. I mean, we can't get anything right. We can't get it our own way. But from a Steelers perspective, it's the NFL. It's a division opponent, and it's a team that, while it's massively unbalanced and can't find a quarterback or wide receivers to save their life, they can beat you. They beat Green Bay. They beat one of the best teams in the NFC already. So, I mean, we're just talking about maybe wanting to respect the opponent a little bit too much, and I look forward to at the Facts Mobs maybe follow up on this.
Here's the thing: I hate Cleveland. I hate the Cleveland Browns. Kevin Stefanski has been the NFL Coach of the Year twice in the last 5 years. Like, you can say whatever you want. I can say that Myles Garrett needs to get on a boat and row it down the Ohio and give the damn trophy back. He's got the trophy. Like, yeah. You can't just say Stefanski sucks and this team sucks when we just lost a worse version of this team. And when the guy who's leading this team has twice in and out of the nonsense that the Haslam family has done to this city, that city, not this city, not this city.
I do want to talk about how they gave up 41 to Baltimore early before the bleep hit the fan for Baltimore, and they gave up 34 to Detroit. That just shows that if you can run against them, you can absolutely still break this Cleveland defense. But what we saw other than Minnesota was the Steelers defense get run on a lot. I mean, the week 1 was an embarrassment. Seattle sucked. New England should have scored a lot of points, and maybe you would have found yourself in a dogfight late, maybe trying to get that to overtime to pull out a victory. And then, on the other side, I like Jalen Warren and Kenny Gainwell. I really like what both of them have done, but I can't believe that the Steelers are going to go out and run for 80 yards, much less 125, which is probably where you need to get more favorable matchups. Is you're going to need 4.5 to 5 yards an attempt, and consistently doing that 20-25 times throughout the game to maybe get, cover 3 or cover 1, and open it up for those kind of big plays. So I have a strong respect fundamentally for what Cleveland's defense is, even though I haven't much cared for the franchise myself.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the best run defense in the NFL. It's like 75 yards, 3 yards a carry. I mean, they're not giving up shit. Like
Yeah.
they are nasty. And I mean, the kid up front, Graham, that everyone was so mad about because he was throwing up because maybe he had a couple beers the night before camp or whatever it was. Like, people forget that dude is playing next to Myles Garrett, and Myles Garrett is playing off of that dude, and vice versa. You know, you were talking about some of the totality of this defense early in this podcast, and when you break it down, there is a whole lot to get excited about. And
There is.
everyone was talking about the Green Bay Packers unabashedly being the class of the NFC, and I was easily duped. And you know what? You can talk about me being academic all SEC at Kentucky. You can talk about me in any way that you want to and how that might actually mean I'm dumb as hell. But for a minute, I thought they were involved in an FBI scam. That's how bad they made the Green Bay Packers look. I thought the FBI was investigating them for gambling and $1 billion.
Throwing that game.
Yes.
They're going to make all their buddies back home $2,500.
That's how
It
bad
did look that. Yeah.
they made the Green Bay Packers look.
Yeah, and maybe the public, myself included, had an inflated view of what the Packers were, and then Reed got hurt, and maybe Cleveland exposed them a little bit. But you mentioned the 75 yards allowed per game. It's also 3 flat per rush.
Yeah. Yes. And remember, on Sunday, and I talk about this all the time because, like, the way Lamar Jackson, Michael Vick et al. Get the benefit of sacks not counting against them like they do on Saturday, that does not include sacks. That is literally you lining up and saying, we're going to try to beat your ass, and us saying, not so fast. That's how good they are.
Yeah, they are. They are really that good on defense. It's also notable Dylan Gabriel, the rookie, did not have an interception in his first start in their loss to Minnesota, so maybe he's due for a pick. But I wanted to get your thoughts, Newbear. You know, I think we're maybe more critical of Mike Tomlin, although there's so much I like about the way that he leads. I would really prefer my head coach would be more on the cutting edge of scheme and holding both sides of the ball accountable to deception. But 14-4 coming off a bye. How do you explain that?
26-6 against rookie. I mean, there was a time when Andy Reid had never lost, right? You give these guys time to prepare, and eventually the numbers run out. You're going to lose one. Someone's going to get you. Look, Mike Tomlin, this team, this franchise has been the beneficiary of having enough. They've had enough to figure it out from week to week. Sometimes that meant Ben Roethlisberger was just better than whoever you had under center. Sometimes that meant TJ Watt was just going to go Superman. And there's a lot of stuff in between on both sides of the ball. And for the most part, regular season, week to week, he figures it out. When I talk about is Tomlin going to Tomlin, all I'm talking about is snow angels. All I'm talking about is George Pickens fighting dudes while the ball's still in the air on a Hail Mary, and him being an absolutely failed experiment for this franchise. And then when you go back through just the wide receiver room, talk about Antonio Brown, Martavius Bryant, Juju Smith-Schuster, not just how they left this city, but how they negatively impacted it and became a problem in the locker room while they were still in it. He is not infallible. He's very, 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 very good. You said at the beginning of your take, or your side of this take, you'd like to see more out of scheme. When you bend but don't break and you win Super Bowls, you're Bill Belichick. When you bend but don't break and you just have non-losing seasons, you're Mike Tomlin. And that is a different level of conversation.
Hopefully our conversation Monday will be about another Steelers victory. They are 82-64-1 all time against Cleveland. And it's pretty amazing because Cleveland started off with 8 straight wins, and 12 of the first 13 went the Browns' way. Starting in December of 62, the Browns won just 4 games from that point to 1983. Wow. And then starting then they had another very similar run from the 90s into the 2000s as well. And salute to Matt Williamson, Matt Stats for plucking a couple of those out. But I wanted to get your thoughts. I know we're late on time here, Newbear. I wanted to get your thoughts on this topic. that's kind of blown up following Thursday Night Football as the Giants, Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo kind of, announcing their presence as better than Russell Wilson and Tyrone Tracy. But there's been some thoughts around town this week that instead of taking Derek Harmon, the Steelers should have taken Jackson Dart. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely not. I love Jackson Dart. I'm so happy for what's happening for him with his Anakin Skywalker face paint and everything that he's got out of his bromance with Cam Scatterbo. I will be rooting like hell for them. I really will. I love everything that story is portending and projecting. Same time, dude, Derek Harmon is how this city was built. It's from the inside out. And oh, by the way, Aaron Rodgers was coming here or he was taking his ball and going home the whole time. So he was never crossing the field and going to the other locker room in New York. And he was never seriously going to Minnesota because they loved J.J. McCarthy. Aaron Rodgers being here over waiting for Russ to wear out again to get the kid running around like a chicken with his head cut off. First and foremost, not a chance Mike Tomlin lets him play like that here. You can say what you want and everything we just said about all the complimentary stuff. Jackson Dart does not give a bleep about putting the ball in harm's way. That is the least efficient or effective way to get on the field as a young quarterback or any age quarterback playing for Mike Tomlin. So change one thing, change everything. You can't change parts of this script and just pretend that you could project it. Just like George Pickens wouldn't be doing what he was doing in Dallas here based on how fractured that relationship was. Have an honest conversation. And if you're not willing to do so, change the topic.
Yeah, I like that. And, I also want to say, let's not pretend like Jackson Dart isn't a crash dummy at this point in his career and might have had to fake his way through concussion protocol in order to stay in that game because, he's a massive injury risk, even more than Jaden Daniels, which surprises me considering how Daniels threw his body around in college. He's done a really nice job adjusting. Let's not also pretend like Jackson Dart is lighting anybody up in the passing game. He's getting it done being a dual threat quarterback with really questionable decision making, and there's just not a lot of longevity to that. And then let's also not forget that he's got the mannerisms and personality of like a Cavender twin. He is like,
he's like, beautiful. Don't put the respect on his face.
Hey, I know, but he is just like the least Pittsburgh quarterback ever. It would be a weird fit. He needs to be New York City or Southern California.
He belongs in and that's where he started. People forget that before Ole Miss, he was the prince that was promised before Caleb Williams.
Oh, is that right?
That's why he ended up at Ole Miss. And Lincoln Riley didn't just ruin Spencer Rattler's life. He changed the dynamics of a lot of things. So as you unpack who he is and what he's going to be, dude, remember, young Aaron Rodgers, nobody thought he could move. Then all of a sudden he ran around. He started getting his bird bones broken. And every part of this in terms of longevity, if you want to play 20 years, that's a different conversation than lightning in a bottle. Jackson Dart, more likely to be Joe Namath, win one, be regarded and have a sandwich named after him, than play 20 years and be one of the historical greats.
I love it. Newbear, you're on fire tonight. Enjoy the game. Please subscribe. It helps us so much. If you've already subbed, go ahead and smash that like button. We'd love that. For Newbear, I'm Dawson. Until next time, we'll see you on the Knoll Road.